Hello, people. This is Jigsaw, episode 5, and we'll be looking at the great European sunset. And today we will go through the NATO and US clash and how it is going to manifest in the coming weeks and months and years. So, the first one, the NATO era, which is the current era. How the NATO is behaving, how it is right now, what are the various facets that we have to keep watch on. So, the first step, why NATO? NATO is actually built with a deep anti Soviet sentiment, and there are tendencies which have outlasted its purpose. Like, for example, everyone knows that okay, Russia is a threat. So, for every smaller country or a smaller union, any bigger country with a huge landmass is always a threat, and this is something which is very natural. Like, for instance, for India, there are like Pakistan, there is Bangladesh, which is scared of us, so to speak, and there is Sri Lanka, which is okay, we are not always with you. There is Nepal, which actually tried to change the map, and so it happens, and most of it is actually myth. India is not going to invade Nepal tomorrow and then get things done, right? And India is not going to invade Sri Lanka. India is not going to invade any other country for that matter. So this great Russia myth is all about fear, and more you build fear amongst people, and then the more the companies have benefited. Like, for example, let's do a dipstick test. If Russia is so big a threat, why are you not spending on your military? For example, Pakistan considers India as a threat. Pakistan gets huge amounts of monies from outside and it spends on its military and proxies, and I mean those are like hard terror, arms, ammunition, everything you see. But what is Europe doing? Europe is not even able to spend up even 1 2% of its budget. So, I mean, if there are questions, if there are tendencies, I think people of Europe should do a dipstick test. And this is where our second point comes in. Like, European nations wants to keep their military spending less. Why? If you have such a big threat, and now today, I mean, we see Keir Starmer, British PM, and others coming together and like we will spend big. Was why have you not done it till date? That's exactly where Trump started off. Like, Europe should spend more. So it's one thing to treat someone as a threat, and then on the other hand, you're not acting on it. There is a disconnect there. So that's something which needs to be sorted. Third, globalist forces want leverage on everything in the garb of security. For example, they say that an election in a democratic country like Romania, they say that no, the person you elected is not good, and we are going to call off the election. That definitely not how it works. Please let people, you either are with democracy or you are not for it. If you are with democracy, accept whatever results that people give you, people vote for. You can't have a say on democracy and at the same time have your version of democracy. No, that's not how it works. The fourth one, threaten any alternative to Europe but make everyone spend on Europe. So, like the last video, the last episode, I was talking about the missing billions of Ukraine. Like, today, everyone is saying, you spent this much, I spent this much. But the problem is, nobody knows how much was spent on Ukraine, and nobody knows who spent what on Ukraine. Some say it is loan, some say it is not, some say it's grant, some say we just gave our excess weapons, but some say no, it actually has a cost to it. But the problem here is Europe is not spending. Europe wants everyone else to spend for it. Like, for example, it wants US to spend on it. It wants Ukraine to spend on it. It wants the seized Russian assets to fund it. So, what exactly is Europe going to do? And where are they going to spend from? And are they even spending? Nobody knows. That's the fourth one. And on the fifth, NATO's military front for EU, which wants to control the world without liability. It's true. NATO is de facto military front for EU, which wants to control everything, but not limited to security and the territory, but everything. Whatever EU decides, NATO is out there to protect those interests. But the problem is that is failing. Here are the overall highlights, what we actually saw and what is currently happening. Defense spending and security guarantees. That's the cornerstone of an entity called NATO. You get into NATO, you get these two by default. No questions asked. And if there is a threat from anyone outside NATO to these two, then US is out there to protect you. Whether it is defense spending and the security guarantees. I mean, like you're short of funds, you self-fund it. So as on date, NATO is seeking control of seized Russian assets and resources. As we know, like NATO is not able to fund it. NATO members are not able to fund it. So they want seized Russian assets to fund it. So there's no legal standing over that. But then it's NATO. It has EU members as part of it, so they can do anything. Since defense spending is an issue, Europe is largely dependent on US dollars. Just like how in imperial era, Europe used to depend on other countries' resources, here it is dependent on US dollars. There's no change to that. They're still dependent on outside world too for their security and everything. Fourth, Eastern European NATO members are elected to spend on the increasing defense expenses. You see, like they are very small economies and they are like it's huge burden on us. So they are reluctant, and if NATO is going to step up, then be sure that Eastern European countries are going to push back. Already I've seen a few things on Slovakia pushing back. Poland is saying like we can't send boots on ground. Fifth, on Ukraine, Sorosites want to make it US versus NATO. Okay, first of all, Sorosites means the parasites who are in sync with Soros. And these are like, they have different names to them. Sorosists, globalists, all those things. So now, to a great extent, those people have actually succeeded in making the entire Ukraine issue a US versus NATO issue. And I was seeing Elon Musk saying US should exit NATO. I was just saying Elon Musk posting like US should exit NATO. It means nothing to us. It's actually true. US is not benefiting almost anything out of NATO. If US wants security, it should talk peace and it should talk deals, and it should have alliance with large countries rather than this artificial union of European countries and a few selfish countries who don't want to spend for themselves by themselves, but they want others to spend on them for them. So that's not how the world is. That's not how the world operates. The current US dispensation post-Biden era, the second Trump administration, even the first administration tried it, but then they tried it on other issues. But then this Trump administration is keenly going for a jugular, so to speak, and they actually want to stop this war. They don't want unending wars. They actually don't want wars. Even if any, they want it to be short, crisp, precise. Unending wars are not going to fly. It is not getting any takers. See, there is a huge global south group which detests Europeans. They can actually agree with even US, but definitely they are not going to accept Europeans and their NATO. Now, since Trump is not playing along, Sorosites want to reduce dependence on US. Good luck, go for it. Then further to that, the evolution of that thought led to Sorosites saying, Like, we want to establish an European army. Oh, well and good. Welcome. Go for it. Okay, so EU era. So now let's see what EU is and why EU. So the first and foremost, EU's economic and political magnetism depends on NATO staying in power. Without NATO, EU is not attractive. So that's the foremost thing. So you might ask, like, all European Union members are not members of NATO. All members of NATO are not members of EU. To a great extent, yes. But then there are policies which affect European Union purely because of NATO. Till date, the large amounts of funding that they have been able to do to keep their cities and economy running is because they spend very less on defense budget, but then with US money. For now, European Union's magic holds only if they look beyond US money that's coming into NATO, which in turn protects them. They should look beyond NATO. And with or without NATO, if EU wants to hold, they must start thinking logically using common sense. So, like I said, like, countries seek EU entry primarily for US backed protection. Case in point, Ukraine. Ukraine wants US to be part of it. Otherwise, it's not going to go and ask for Europeans, and it's not going to go and ask for GCC or Turkey to come and protect. Countries seek entry into EU primarily for US backed protection. Yes, though it's not NATO, but countries do seek EU entry. But one exception would be Ukraine, because Putin said, I don't mind you joining European Union, but then if you're joining NATO, then I have a problem. But this guy does not want to get into European Union, but he wants to join NATO first. The other thing is, even after so much of refugee pressure and all the invasion that has happened, the EU still clings into its cultural roots, which is basically Christian cultural political roots. So that's on the other side. Why EU? See, they are largely democratic. One exception could be Germany and the recent chaos in German election, but slowly these are going to prove grave threat for political future of EU. But then that's just a blip. Hopefully they still remain democratic because the systems are in place. See, individual countries are not a problem, but when it comes to European Union as such, then the problems are quadrupled. So that's where it is. Why EU? Largely freedom of speech, but then the EU countries are silencing freedom of speech is not going down well with many other countries as well. Like, for instance, Europe asking for a backdoor entry into iPhones has not gone down well with many countries, to be frank. It's not just US. So, yeah. So, let's see what next. So, the current EU era, what EU is currently and what they are looking at. The current situation is that they want euro to be positioned as a rival to US dollar. Sorry, renminbi, EU has other plans. The next one is bolstering control over the narrative to counter the so-called Russian aggression. For the past few days, we have been seeing some crazy stuff from, be it at the Oval Office, be it at how EU is being threatened, so to speak, by the political negotiation that wherein they were sidelined. If there is a peace which is brokered by US without EU or Ukraine on the table, it's going to be disaster for them. So that is the whole reason why this entire crazy stuff that is going on in our news channels and orchestrated by Europe. European Union trying to hijack control in multilateral organizations. Yes. So they're trying to hijack UNHCR, climate change, rule making bodies. Then they have G20, G8, whatever you want. So those things, they have a huge hold, and They change their rules, like individual countries or the EU. They change their rules on and off. Same people wearing different masks depending on the situation or the summit. So that's actually not a great thing to see. The next one is centralizing EU monetary control with European Central Bank. See, ECB has a very tight control on EU monetary policies, but it is not going well, to be frank, with many countries, even within EU. So going back, even I'm not sure, but I am guessing here that even the defense budget, if they want to rise, they may need to go and take an approval from the ECB. And what happens if euro is pegged? What if ECB intervenes? And what if the gold crisis that is going on in London spills over to EU? Question mark. So all these things are like getting into one thing and one thing only, like harnessing your political leverage, economic leverage, and then hold over your resources, whether or not it falls within EU. So that's something which they have to understand, that world has changed. This is not imperial world, and not many people will survive the democratic voices which are coming from global south as well as US. The next one is on how Western Eurozone, the old Europe, so to speak, Germany, France, UK, are trying to dictate and trying to forge a relationship with China. Why China? Because if you have watched the earlier episode, they actually want to force a relationship with China so that they can kick out US. Now, China might not work out for them, and that's the reason European commissioners are actually in Delhi. They actually want not just China but also India to support them on their endeavors to go against US. Sorry, India is just going to play along with you until we dump you at the right moment. Next, the post NATO era. So, the post NATO era, we will have a few challenges. One, what if US withdraws from NATO? What if the Russian Renaissance type happens? So the next one, your over dependence will is going to be on Turkey. Good luck with that. They'll increase your TFR. Greenland, Canada, Gaza. If you are going to go against US and going to kick them out, or US going to exit, then be sure that Greenland, Canada, and Gaza will be militarized against European Union. And last I heard this funny stuff called European army. Uh, Logically, let's think. Uh, there are countries which can be underpowered, which are the go-to countries, but they all need at some point men and women to operate. Europe can't take body bags. We all know what happened in 1940s and in World War One. So I mean, let's accept that Europe can never defend itself by troops from their own countries. They need outsiders. Good luck with that. Indians and Russians are not going to come. And had Indians not come, had Russians and US were not your allies, Europe, Britain would have not survived today. France would not have survived today. Berlin would not have survived today. It was Russian army which came into Berlin and kicked out Hitler. You think you can save yourself? Entire World War One, World War Two, until date, you are saved by US. You used Americans as your war horse. Any war, you take a backseat. You let Americans lead from the front. I mean, it's good that you realize that you're not the first, but then the problem is like you've always had them fighting for you. You never defended yourself. So these are your challenges. I mean, come on, stand up and fight. I was just thinking out loud on how this will manifest. I mean, the NATO will be contemplating without US. The post-NATO. I mean, To cut it short, after US withdraws, NATO will not be NATO. It will be European Treaty Organization (ETO) or something. They can figure out how to deploy troops, how to manage their resources, and arm some nations. Good luck. Go for it. Do it. All the best. Then the post-NATO possibilities comes in. UK has a total of 40 working tanks. Luxembourg has a total of 939 personnel in its army. Poland has already said we are not going to send troops to Ukraine. Remental CEO warns that European armories are nearly empty and is actually going to restart a 350-year-old ammo manufacturing plant. Ukraine wants 1.5 million strong army plus massive funding. I hear UK PM has actually promised 3 or 4 million pounds annually. All the best. How are they going to get the funding from? Where are you going to get the funding from? General opinion in NATO is if Europe's industrial base cannot meet these demands quickly, NATO members should consider foreign suppliers and or purchase alternate capabilities. From where? Where do you have your systems? Where do you have your industries? You close that down on environmental laws. So where are your industries? Drones, Turkey. If you want to manufacture in mass, come to India. Yeah, Indian capabilities. Moving on, post-EU era. Post-EU challenges, losing political control. See, as long as NATO was involved, there is an American factor to it. And everyone feared, okay, democracy, and they can't do anything beyond democracy. But now that might go. You EU will not be having a political control on what others think, what other member countries think. A handful of people will not be in a deciding position what others will do within their country. For example, there won't be a Romania or a Germany or a free speech buckling actions by European Union anymore. In future, they will not happen if EU loses political control over its members. Some of the countries, like I would not want to name them, but then some of the countries actually signed up to be part of NATO or EU purely because of threats from a handful of people. And I won't be surprised that those countries go out of EU, exit EU, Eurozone in some form to stay out of this mess and regain their own mental peace. Let's see how that goes. Second, green laws are making it difficult for military industry revival. Yes, like Rainmental wants to start a plant. Fine, they managed to start it. If there are 10 other countries, 10 other industries which want to start, your carbon emission targets will go for a toss. And if you're going to reduce your dependence on US, a lot of industrial equipment is coming from US, or for that matter China. If US enforces a blockade of some sort or strikes a deal with Russia to contain China to not do business with you, restrain them in some way or the other, you have to start your own businesses. And will your industries be supported by the environmental friendly laws? Let's see. And the third, the collapse of Eurozone banking is also on cards. But to give you a gist, the crisis in London is all set to spill into, say, Brussels or Paris at some point. And I thought it will be in a year's time, but I won't be surprised if it happens before that. So if in case European Union falls, it will be dependent largely on Turkey and the Chinese. The Chinese, they may be restrained by Russians. Fourth, the Turkish and Chinese bargain. See, you have two threats if EU falls. EU fall will happen post-NATO. And if EU also falls, then you have a crisis at hand. Turkey. The Turkish threat is very underestimated, but you think Chinese are the bigger threat? They are thousands of miles away, and they can be contained in some way or the other. You have nothing to lose. But Turkey is a big threat, and as on date, none of the European countries are actually talking about it. And imagine a scenario where Turkey attacks Greece and reclaims all the territories that are part of Greece as on date. What will Europe do? You go and bomb Turkish pipeline to Russia. Good luck with that. Erdogan will send you so many refugees that he'll replace your population within a decade, or maybe even half a decade. 450 million is going to be nothing. He will do things to you that others will think twice to do, and he is not going to be alone. Mind you, he is going to have Morocco, Tunisia, Algerians. You ask for it, he will send you the ethnicity of refugees that you ask for. So Turkey. So I'm not cursing you, but then it's more like it's a serious threat that European Union should start thinking about. Turkey, Turkey, Turkey. Chinese are going to be a threat because they are not going to do business with you without any concession, diplomatic concession, which you may or may not have when EU collapses. So all in all, EU's irrelevance is what we are foreseeing right now, and let's see how this pans out. In the post EU era, we can also expect a few things which might manifest. UK back in EU or even Eurozone. Why I say this in post EU era? Because it'll be there in some form or the other, right? It may not be EU, it may not be Eurozone then, but then it'll be there in some some other dimension. Just the names might differ, but it'll be there. Right now, due to Brexit, it has gone out, but it might come back into that kind of a zone. So that is why I've mentioned it as EU and Eurozone. It does not mean European Union and Eurozone as we know it today. And the split in European Union with some countries aligning with US for peace. Yes, Ukraine has taught a few things, that there are countries even today which long for peace, but they are not getting it because of European Union, or for that matter NATO. So the entire game will change when countries start aligning individually, deciding their foreign policies, and with the US or EU as they may choose. And it is going to happen very swiftly once it starts happening. See, for example, Viktor Orban actually is siding with US, and really not exactly an anti-Russia guy, but then he's not pro-Russia either. He's just saying, boss, you come and talk. That talking is not happening as of now. So these kind of neutral countries who wants to stay neutral will move out of this chaos. And it's not going to be him alone. Anyone who shares a border with Russia directly might want to move out of Europe, or for that matter, even NATO. So that will happen at some point. Denmark might lose control over Greenland because Trump is going to get it. Hook or crook, it's going to go to US. If not today, in just 1 year, in 5 years, it is going to do. That seed of going out of Denmark's hand has already been sown, and it will go at some point. Canada is one country which Europe might use to target US. Just like how Ukraine is being used to target Russia, Canada will be used to target US. Mind you, the supply lines are cut, and that's the reason why he needs Greenland, and that's the reason why he needs Panama Canal, and that's the reason he has a huge interest in that Atlantic Ocean. He is not a fool to go and ask random territories. He's asking for 3 territories which he will get. You have to understand that the issue of Greenland, Canada and Gaza are going to be settled with or without Europe. And you think Trump is going and signing a deal with the Kurds just like that? Look at the recent statements from Erbil. They are going to create a counter for Turkey as well. Turkey, if it thinks it can go into Europe or NATO and work for it, to lead it in some way or the other, to play a key role, They are mistaken. Their backyard is going to be on fire sooner than expected. So if Europe wants to take Turkey in, the only deal which I can think of is current European Union will sign a deal with Turkey saying, was you please send your refugee invasion softly. Don't send too many people. Our people are getting threatened. But it doesn't still mean that you will stop this refugee threat. They will just go soft on him. Basically, Europe won't fight. Europe would want to hunt for raw materials, new sources for raw materials, because the current sources are going to be blocking Europe and its members from accessing it. That's it. All this will cause a political turmoil within Europe, and they will have many countries choosing a right wing government, right wing in their own terms. But then, for me, whatever is considered as right wing in Europe is actually they are talking common sense. Yeah, you are not supposed to do a few things for your country. You have done it. And see, unchecked immigration is not a good thing for a country. If someone is opposing it and if you dub them as right, so be it. And the last thing on the permanent divide, all these things are actually gaining critical mass right now. It will create a permanent divide amongst people, amongst countries, communities, entities, like that. And it is not easy to heal it. These guys need to tone down a lot. You can't go on an unending war, and the things that are going to come out of Ukraine is going to be very nasty. You don't want your country to be part of it. Just come out of it. Moving on. Then comes the new era, which is also considered as a turning point. Parts of Europe moves away from US, parts of Europe will align with US. So it is going to happen both ways. Any change in government in, say, Romania, in France, Germany. Germany just had elections, but then wait for it. Something is going on there. So in other countries, for that matter, it is going to curb the European influence on their own countries. Russia-US alliance will also happen to curb European hegemony. That's because if Europe goes and partners with China and Europe is still against Russia, you think Russia will tolerate China? You think Russia will allow China to be part of the Arctic Ocean exploration, the new routes to US from Russia? US will align with natural partners like India, Russia, who are based. And if you have India and Russia, you also have major part of Africa. If US aligns with India, gets global south on its side. If US aligns with Russia, it will also get potential partners in Africa. Whereas if US aligns with both India and Russia at the same time, it gets a lot of takers, be it in Latin America, be it in Southeast Asia, be it in Middle East, the West Asia, Caucasus. I mean, you cover pretty much the entire region, the global south and all the other regions. So that's something which can be tried. All in all, Turkey and China along with Europe will be dubbed as an axis of evil. US and India will partner with Russia on rare earth exploration and probably even for global peace. And this global peace is not dependent on who gets the Nobel. See, Nobel itself has lost its relevance. I mean, like the gentleman who said Europeans control a huge sway on who gets the Nobel. Good luck with that. So, Cyprus, Taiwan, and Tibet to counter Turkey and China. Cyprus, Taiwan, and Tibet to counter Turkey and China. Cyprus. Hellenic Air Force, Hellenic military, Navy have actually interacted a lot with Saudis, UAE, India, US, Israel. So, I mean, if US goes and opens up a base in Gaza, I don't think Turkey is going to be comfortable with that. With US supplying and supporting Hellenic Air Force and the Kurds at the same time. So that's a counter for Turkey. Taiwan and Tibet. If China goes and supports Europe in any manner for that matter going forward, economic partnership, strategic partnership, the natural boundaries of China will be limited to their Great Wall. It is not going to climb up and reach Tibet or go into the sea and reach Taiwan. It is not going to happen. You can't partner with someone's adversary and then expect them not to act on you. The sins committed by China are far extensive. Entire world will come for you You have no idea what is going to hit you the moment you go and sign a partnership agreement with European Union. Russia is silent today, but if you're going to go and sign a strategic partnership with Europe, then apart from US, even Russia will go against you. You can't expect someone to sign an agreement and then be peaceful to your friends. That to your only ally in the globe. It is not going to be easy for you, China. We can also expect that Russia and US stops the flow of grains from Kazakhstan into China, because a lot of Chinese have huge farms in Kazakhstan. That can also be done. Then food shortage will trigger a famine will trigger your economic collapse, and not just economic collapse but also your political standing within China will be questioned. Good luck with that. Europe will also lose its overseas territories. One thing which I was expecting to happen for some time, for a few years now, is to have somehow an Indian detachment in Mauritius. PM Modi is going to their national day, and if Mauritius invites India to be part of Gygsaw, and then US is okay with it, and then UK says no, it's mine. It's not yours anymore. It's Mauritius. It's theirs always. And Mauritius is uh, having a lot of Indian origin people for global security. Why can't India be there on Gygsaw? Just right next to Mauritius, there is French Reunion Islands. I mean, Mauritius should stake claim for that as well, or rather, Madagascar should stake claim for that. One of the African nations should claim that. So that is going to happen, and French also have overseas territories in the Pacific. So all those things need to be taken back by rightful countries. The other thing which is going to happen is also like West Asia will seek to curb Turkish influence, because EU is not going to be there. NATO is gone. EU, because of NATO, nobody attacked Turkey. Now that if there's no NATO, there are a lot of other countries which want to go and attack Turkey. Saudis, Kurds, UAE. At some point, even Russians might want to do that, because if UK opens a base or strengthens a base for Ukraine in the Sea of Azov, then Russia will bomb Turkey first, then will go to Sea of Azov. So good luck with that. And Syria and Ukraine will be divided in any choice. Kurds will get a homeland. Global illegal arms smuggling will be under scanner. A complete rejig of global economy and political equations. Take out the EU, take out the NATO, just think Europe as individual countries. Just look at their insecurity, just look at their value in real world, just look at their boundaries, just look at their economy, just look at their demography. They are struggling for each and everything. Either Africans will invade Europe, or Turkish will send in refugees. Arabs basically, they will all move out to other countries as refugees, or end up in some asylum. One look at Europe's fertility rate, even the replacement population are not there. I don't know how they are going to survive and how long. With so many illegal invasion that has already happened, how long is Europe going to be Europe in its current form? Nobody knows. Nobody wants to invest in Europe. We just want them to be engaged with us. That's it. Money does not matter. We are just bringing in the technology that they have and the IPs that they have. That's it. Other than that, nothing. Nobody is bothered about Europe, because their money is worth nothing. In few months, we will know the truth about the gold that they hold. And if US exits, or if it is kicked out of NATO by Europe, good luck for them. Bangladesh will be reset. The current European Union has actually funded a long campaign in Bangladesh. Since 1971, it's an unfinished thing. Started with Seattle, 1971 war, ended with end of Seattle. Now they have intervened here. It is going to end European Union as well, because a lot of European countries are heavily invested there. And the next one is very sure to happen. Many maps will be redrawn. Starting from Ukraine, it will go left, right, and center. It's going to be redrawn. even India's. So we are going to gain territory. This is going to happen. The era of unnatural and artificial boundaries is going to end. All natural boundaries are going to happen from now on. So the key takeaways: US exit of NATO will lead to breakup of European Union. Both are interconnected. Europe will start to explore living without depending on outside support. World will see a new Cold War between US, and if it exists, it is going to be with the European Union or else some other entity that they form for themselves to make them happy. Multipolar world is going to be a reality. Russia and US relationship, if not allies, they'll be transactional allies. Will be transactional. We may agree or disagree, but then we'll not fight over it. World will see countries that work for global peace. When I say that, it also means that the troublemakers will be put in spotlight. Globalists will lose and run for cover with no place to hide. It is going to happen. To start with, some countries might actually impose restrictions on Soros and his family, his entities. People have already started in other parts of the country, which I am aware of. Groups linked to Soros are being put in a spotlight, and that will happen to his entities in Europe and Western world also. It is not going to be Russia and Asia. It is going to be other countries. The key money minting countries, the key tax havens are going to screw your happiness. And a lot of governments across the world are actually taking a realistic assessment of EU in all spheres, like what are they even worth, whether it is economy, political weightage, what is their hold on other governments, entities, what they can offer. With nothing to offer, I mean, I don't think they will get a seat at the table. Apart from Europe, China and Turkey will be two key losers. At the end, India and Global South will be the biggest winner just by being silent, not intervening in this mess. You can do everything at the background. You can bat for peace, bat for engagements, all that is okay. But then not intervening, not being part of this mess is in itself a big thing. With this, we come to the end of this episode of The Jigsaw. This is episode 5, and the next episode will be with another interesting topic. Thank you. See you all. Bye. Take care.